With hundreds of new games out each month, it's hard to stay on top of which games are worth your time and pennies over those you shouldn't touch. Well, that's just where we can help, and in today's video here on Get Indie Gaming, we take another look across your favourite storefronts for 10 more indie game hidden gems you might have missed when they first came out. Up first, let's begin this month's indie game hidden gems rundown with My Brother Rabbit. First out back in October of 2018, with it coming to PC and all of the usual consoles. This one comes from developer Artiflex Mundi, and it's a stunningly beautiful game with quite frankly gorgeous hand-drawn sections where players must find hidden objects and solve puzzles in what's all in a really rather fine point-and-click adventure. At its core, it features a story about a girl who's quite unwell and her older brother and parents who just want to help and care for her during her period of illness, although in reality all they can do is comfort her and try to make things a little bit easier. Just like that dragon cancer, this game will, all things considered, hit you square in the feels, with the cutscenes after each level representing a different phase of her illness, building on and adding further context to the story. The puzzles, well, they're not hard, and the overall flow feels perfectly suited for this type of game, which you can finish off in an extended afternoon. It's subtle, it's beautiful, and with a story that's so expertly told. At number 9 and out as recently as early March, Puddle Knights is a puzzle game that's deeply unappreciated and comes with more than 100 levels, with it all about wits, chivalry, and more than a splattering of mud and puddle gunk. You'll play as a valiant knight with the aim of escorting your social betters, ladies and bishops as such, across the levels without letting their shoes or hems get all dirty. It is really rather fun and, while a casual affair, although every now and again it does offer a fine bit of challenge. Thankfully, or not, depending on your take on such things, there are no timers to have you clock watching. You also have the ability to go back and restart each level as you see fit, and there's no penalties in doing so. It's all really quite chucklesome, and it's out first on the PC, with it coming, we believe, to other platforms at a timeline that's to be confirmed. Next up at number 8, Finding Paradise came out towards the end of 2017, with it being a follow-up to the exquisite To the Moon, a game I've played through over so many times. For some reason, however, Finding Paradise slipped past me until only very recently when it came up in conversation about doctors in video games. Yeah, I know that's quite random, although there we are. As before, you're shadowing Eva and Neil, as they again are given the task of bending and manipulating the memories of a dying man so he's able to end his life with a better, albeit fake, memory of the things he's done and achieved over the course of his time on Earth. I'm surprised this wasn't called To the Moon 2, and if it were, well, there's no way I'd have slept on playing this for so long. As you might expect, it follows a similar play style and story of the original, with it adding a few new tweaks and changes here and there to keep it fresh. Also, just like the original, well, it's super hard to speak about what much of this game looks to do, as it's essentially one continual interwoven story, so any such discussion would be full of spoilers. That said, the chap in question this time is more complex, there's less love and romance going on, and perhaps, if that was the aim, keeping you the player more emotionally distant than the first game, well, I think the developers have gone and done that in spades. Or at least, that's what I took away from it. And while it didn't hit me as hard as To the Moon, it's an all-round excellent point-and-click visual novel that's available for PCs by way of Steam. From earlier this year at number 7, Lightmatter will be instantly recognisable to anyone who has seen and played the majestic Portal, on which this game is somewhat of a tribute. Now, I don't really mind that at all. The game is so upfront and honest about its lineage, and comes with more than a handful of references to its inspiration at various places within the game. It's no out-and-out clone or copy, though. You play as having awoken within a facility called the Lightmatter Technologies, with you having no idea how you got there or no memory of anything pretty much at all. Following an apparent accident, the facility is contaminated with shadows able to harvest and consume organic life, with you very much looking to avoid this sort of outcome. Helped by the CEO of Lightmatter technology, the game sees you solving puzzles by way of casting light, in which you're able to move forwards by way of lamps and pylons, in what at a time some superbly subtle head-scratching puzzles. It's not quite up to the Portal level of greatness, particularly and sadly the final level where there's an unexpected gameplay flip, which I'll not spoil. Considering you can get a demo via Steam and play the whole first hour for free, there's no reason puzzle fans shouldn't at least give this one a try. At number 6, from towards the end of last year, we have Spring Falls, with its concept being around water erosion and the growing of plants. It's a puzzler, and it's super chilled with you diverting the flow of water by shifting hex-based tiles. The aesthetic and soundtrack are super minimal, with it having around 60 or so levels. While the developers said they were looking to create a peaceful experience, they are quite correct in saying some of the puzzles do offer a really good challenge. Or at least they did for me. Spring Falls can be played on PCs via Steam, and on mobiles via iOS devices. At number 5, we have Tree, which tells a story of a boy who plants a tree, and what at first seems an inconsequential act grows and develops into a strong relationship between the two that lasts a lifetime. Now this one is super short, and takes only 10 minutes to play from end to end. It's also outstandingly emotional and beautiful with it too, with the visuals, music and underlying theme all gelling together fantastically. I suspect anyone who plays it will take something different away from the next person. And while it has no dialogue, its narrative shines, and it's this kind of game that keeps us searching and playing for these hidden gems. Tree is available to play for Steam, and since it's free, it won't cost you a penny. At number 4, and to my hazy memory perhaps the first DICE game to appear in this or any other segment on Get Indie Gaming, we have Here Be Dragons. You play as a ship's captain with the job of going out and hunting down those nasty looking sea creatures you tend to see in old maps and in a number of cartoons. It's all rather fun and silly, with it based on a take your turn combat system in which you roll a dice before manoeuvring and undertaking offensive and defensive manoeuvres. The skirmishes are short and snappy, and they keep things nice and pointed. While the humour mainly fires and misses, the underlying game is good enough, and the artwork a particular high point. Here Be Dragons came out in the middle of August last year and can be found on Steam. At number 3, Iris Fall came out in November 2018 and features a truly distinct and unique visual approach, with it using monochrome art style that also has a traditional Alice in Wonderland-like method of storytelling where a girl falls into a strange and unfamiliar world, having been on the tail of a black cat following it into an old and strange theatre. While mostly a point-and-click puzzler, Iris Fall does away with much of the item collection-based tasks more usually seen within such games. Here you mostly manipulate the environment in what are front and centre logic-driven tasks. There are on occasions where the solution isn't obvious, although when you apply logic, the links between what needs to be done to progress usually reveal themselves. Okay, sometimes there may be a little bit of guesswork here and there. If you've recently played Luna the Shadow Dust, you'll know what I'm talking about. The visuals are strikingly animated and put together, with the accompanying music being that little bit sinister in all of the right places. You can play Iris Fall on PCs via Steam. At number 2, we have the very YouTube-unfriendly name Void Bastards, with its name having been picked up as a possible flag for AdSense. In any case, we'll risk it, as what we've got here is a rogue type of game that quite truthfully is up there alongside some of the recent greats of the genre. You assume the role of an endless supply and fully disposable prisoners in a sci-fi shooter that's stuffed full with so very many British witticisms that come out one after the other. The core gameplay loop is the same as any of these kind of games. There's frequent death, and death comes aplenty, although as you die off, things get that little bit easier in the next playthrough, as you benefit from holding on to items and upgrades that make you an all-round tougher con, and so better equipped with enhanced armour, weaponry and other such skills. while repetitive, things have been spiced up with your characters having various afflictions that can reduce their abilities to move about the levels. You can find yourself, say, with somebody who has a 2 lighter a day smoking habit who coughs so loudly he alerts the enemies to your presence. You might be overly clumsy, or even only be able to see things in black and white, which turns everything monochrome. As for the combat, well, that's enjoyable, with Void Bastards being, for me at least, a really nice little take on this genre. It's available on PC, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Switch.
Action items tick.
At this month's number 1, and while out a good few years ago, I only saw it towards the middle of the month, with somebody on Twitter saying I should go and take a look. Witchway is a cute and delightful platformer with aspects of Metroid, all thrown in for good measure. You play, funnily enough, as a witch with a wand, where you're able to cast the odd spell or two, and in doing so, you can manipulate certain aspects of the levels to solve puzzles and gain access to new parts of the environment. This might take the form of altering the direction, say, of a beam of light, activating moving platforms, or even moving blocks around the place with which you're able to jump on and move forwards. For me, well, this is just lovely. It's a casual, and I don't mean that disparagingly, look at a genre I so dearly love, and right now, with a few navigation issues aside, it fits a little gap I didn't know existed. Do let me know which of these games you're likely to play, and any others you'd want to see covered in future episode of this Hidden Gems series. If you haven't, be sure to check out the new Get Indie Gaming podcast, there's a link in the description, and once again, many thanks for watching. We'll see you all again here soon for another indie gaming video.